From Koenigstein Road in the east to Casitas Gap in the west, an orange curtain has descended across the Ojai Valley. This is Ojai Talk of the Town. Hey everyone, Brett Bradigan, editor of your Ojai magazines, the monthly and quarterly. Our guest this episode is Susan Kapadia, founder of Ojai CARES Cancer Resource Center. Please stick around to the end. There's a very moving passage, last few minutes, that I think encapsulates the value of community and to each other. Hey Susan, thanks for joining me.
Hi Brett, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we were just talking about, Ojai CARES is going to be the main topic of conversation, but I know you're from New York. Are you, which borough?
Actually from Long Island.
Okay.
So Nassau County.
So on the other side of the boroughs then, the other side of, further east on
east,
Long
but not
Island
much.
Expressway.
It's actually the furthest west and south that you can get on Long Island. We're very close to JFK, the airport.
Is that Jamaica Plains?
Not Jamaica Plains.
What's the airport there? I thought that was JFK.
Oh, in Jamaica Plains, that would be LaGuardia.
Oh, no, I get them mixed up all the time.
Yeah.
So what brought you to Ojai? I know that you've been in this for 11 years, you said. You had your own personal experience, right?
I have, yes. I am a cancer survivor of 14 years. I had breast cancer, and maybe I'll just go right into that. I was out of the clear blue. I have no family history of cancer, so we would call me ground zero.
Whoa.
And I had just opened up a restaurant here in Ojai.
Yeah, World Cafe.
World Flavor Cafe. And it took me 18 months to open that restaurant. There was nothing there. It was an empty building. I don't know if you remember. It was an art gallery. I don't remember what was there
before you.
It was an art gallery.
Who was running that art gallery?
Nancy Main.
Oh, of course, I know Nancy.
Yes.
Yeah. She used to have the gallery across the street over here that was Porch Gallery, and now it's owned by Liv Tyler.
Yes, I heard.
Haven't seen her hiding her hair of her. This is like her third or fourth house in Ojai, and they're
lovely. I guess she likes it here.
The 1 or 2 weekends a year that she's got a full house, that's be the spillover.
How fabulous!
Yeah.
Well, good for her, and she picked a nice spot to live.
Yeah.
So 18 months to open the restaurant, and I was diagnosed 5 months after the opening.
Wow.
Yeah.
So after all that work, and then
after all that work,
do you think that had any bearing on it? Do you think that maybe the chronic stress?
Well, the chronic stress for sure had some effect, and we know that from studies that stress is an enemy to the body.
Do you think it's an epigenetic thing that turns on?
It actually can change. Yes, it can change your DNA. Yeah, put all that stress, and. The doctors had told me that the cancer was probably growing for 3 to 5 years before
it got detected. How did you detect it? What was the first?
There
just
was
doing a self-exam?
Yeah, self-exam, and it was not small. And I ignored it for some time because I was so involved with the restaurant. I was like, I don't have time for this.
I know that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's not uncommon.
Yeah, and you're really just saying, oh, it's probably a this, it's probably a cyst, it's probably something. And it's very easy to sort of wish things away. Yeah. And that does happen with a lot of people, male, female, all kinds of cancers. There's always that deniable, that level of deniability or
just not wanting to think about it.
That's right. That's exactly right. So I did keep the restaurant going for a year, but it was difficult. And
well, it's a tough business, even the best of times.
It's a tough business.
Yeah, you've got to really be a masochist to want to put in those 16-hour days, dealing with suppliers and vendors and having the staff issues.
Oh, please. You know, silly me. I worked at the Iron Pan. Do you remember the Iron Pan?
Marty, was that his name?
Yes, Marty Nation.
That was a long
time ago. And
that is now where Sakura Ojai is, if I
that
recall
is correct.
Correctly.
Yeah, they've made it work, that space, because that space was in and out a lot.
Yes, it was like snake bit.
People said it was cursed.
There's a few places around town. I think it's cursed by people who didn't find the right fit.
Yeah.
It's not that they didn't work hard enough or they didn't have the right, energy or plan or ambition. It's just so tricky to find that sweet spot.
It's true. But Marty gave me a good opportunity.
What were you doing for him?
We created something called Indian Nights. And so one night a week on Tuesdays, we would turn that restaurant into an Indian restaurant.
I love Indian food. Have you ever eaten at Babaji on State Street in Santa Barbara?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, they do a lot of that molecular gastronomy.
Oh, do they?
Indian food, so it's
fancy
really fun.
Food.
Where you have a
little tweezers.
Like a little egg made out of some kind of weird thing, and then it's just really delicious.
Oh, it sounds fabulous. I'll have to try it. Yeah, it's hard when you know how to cook.
To go to another restaurant?
To go to especially Indian food, which is my specialty.
I love to cook. Korma, I love to make korma.
Do you?
Especially.
How do you make it creamy?
Well, I use full cream.
You do. You do. I make it vegan.
Milk. You make it with coconut milk?
You can make it with coconut milk, but it definitely changes the flavor. If you want that authentic flavor, you have to grind up raw cashews, to a paste.
Cashew milk.
Not milk.
Oh, you don't rinse it?
No, it has to be the full-on cashews that you make into a paste, and that goes into the mixture, and it creams it up. Yeah. It's yummy.
That doesn't sound bad at all.
It doesn't sound bad.
Cashews are so versatile.
Yeah, they really are. They are.
So, when did you get here in Ojai now? We're going back
I'm in my 22nd year.
Really? Was the frying pan still here 22 years ago?
The Iron Pan was definitely here. And
I remember
they were there
Deli.
for a very short time, maybe 2 years.
Maybe after Mellon's Deli and before.
Yes,
remember
it was
Ronaldo
after.
Brudico
Yes, of course. Yes, I remember him with garlic gold.
Was that what it's called? Oh, yeah, garlic gold. Yeah.
That was his product, and it was a deli also. Yeah, Marty came in after that.
Yeah.
And, we created something.
Was that your first restaurant experience?
No. Back in New York, I had restaurant experience.
Okay.
Yeah, caterers, restaurants. And I had my own little school at home where I taught couples how to cook together.
Really? That sounds great fun.
Yeah.
I used to love that when I was not single. I would just I do most of the cooking, and my partner would do the chopping and fine work. It was a great division of duty.
Yeah. It's great when couples can work in the kitchen harmoniously.
Yeah. Find a groove.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we created this Indian Nights, and every Sunday I sent out an email to this very robust list that we had been collecting, and I would write a story about the meal that we were preparing, and sometimes I made it up, and sometimes it was based on...
You've taken some license.
Yeah, just a little bit. Just to get people in the mood, a little romantic story about... sometimes the recipe came from my mother-in-law, sometimes it was my brother-in-law's mother, who was a very big influence on my cooking.
Yeah.
So
I love those stories behind the recipes.
Yeah.
Chicken Marengo. It was like Napoleon wanted to celebrate this great victory, and all they could find was these 3 or 4 ingredients. I forget what's in it, eggs and chicken, right? But it was like the place had been foraged out, so they were desperately scraping up a meal to celebrate. And that sort of catch-can recipes are often the best.
I think that Caesar salad started that way as well, with ingredients. The only
Caesar, what was his name? back in their 20s, right? In Tijuana.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I don't remember his last name.
I love a good Caesar salad.
Yeah.
I remember one time a vegan friend was about to go in on a Caesar salad. I'm like, no, you got the anchovies in there and the sauce. You can't do that. And then the restaurant owner overheard and he goes, no, don't worry about it. And, we don't use anchovies. And I'm like, that can't call it Caesar salad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta have those.
So you are.
So there we were. We had gotten so popular that you had to have a reservation.
Yeah, that's a good
and
position.
we really needed to turn those tables.
How many tops did you have?
There were, in that restaurant, I think we had about 35, maybe 45.
Wow. And how often? You're trying to turn them over
We're trying to
twice?
turn them over twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to, shove people out,
Yeah,
but we got the food out very quickly.
Yeah, that helps.
And it does. And anyway, that was great fun. Unfortunately, Marty couldn't keep things going. Very tough business. Mm-hmm. And he really did try his best, mm-hmm. but it's
And the iron
miserable.
pan was from his mom or something? Wasn't
The iron pan was from his mom.
I remember this stuff.
And
wow,
he was trained at the French
ago.
Culinary School in Manhattan, Manhattan, New York. And he was serving French food here with white tablecloths. And we're not exactly a white tablecloth kind of town.
Definitely not.
So, but
when
he
I think
really...
French food, I think, crème and escoffier and all the great mother sauces. And it's such a rich tradition.
Yeah.
Controversy, though, a lot of Italians point to their earlier dishes as, the origin of many of the great French dishes. Yeah. But I suppose that cross-cultural pollination goes on everywhere. It's always been fusion food of one kind or another.
For sure.
Especially with the spice trade, So anyway, back to World Flavor Cafe.
Yeah, World Flavor Cafe. So, like its name, we serve food from all over the world, but we concentrated heavily on Indian food because that was my specialty. Mm-hmm. So I did have a chef working.
How did that structurally? What was the template? Like you'd have 4 entrees of different ethnic
at
backgrounds?
Night. Yeah, during the day, our menu was set, except for maybe a special during the day. And then at night, we had a nighttime menu and then a special from somewhere around the world. Mm. Not the greatest template. I'll use your
Really?
word.
It seems like adventurous eaters in Ojai.
Yes, but
to reward
from the business standpoint, having a menu that's not tight,
it's expensive.
It's very expensive, and of course, we wanted to use really good ingredients. The food was terrific, and we got great.
I've eaten there. I'm trying to remember anything I had that was really good.
Probably had a dosa. This was something.
Which is
the crepe.
The crepes. Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was our big thing. And that was a lunchtime.
And infinitely
offering.
variable. You could make it into
anything. We stuffed it with tandoori chicken and potatoes and peas and onions.
You ever cook goat?
I love goat.
I do too.
Yeah,
I like it better than lamb. I love lamb, but goat, if you can get it. There's only a couple places around here.
I know.
The Red Barn Liquor Store.
Exactly.
Goat on Saturdays.
Yes.
And Winco Market has the...
Birria, you're talking about getting birria? Yeah, with real goat.
And then the Winco sells goat. I don't even know what parts they are. I think they're shanks.
It's wonderful.
But they're very expensive.
I love goat. I love all of those.
Yeah, whatever gets your goat.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
now
so that was...
You've got all this going on, and... You probably were too busy to even really think about self-care and what's going on with that.
Definitely did not think about self-care. And it was, I think I started feeling, I don't know, it was probably a function of the stress, but I started not to feel well.
And what is that, low energy?
Yeah, low energy and kind of...
Physically depressed.
I was crying. Like,
Really?
I felt very overwhelmed.
Yeah, emotionally labile.
Yes. And I can remember Susan Coulter, Susan from...
Of course, Beast Bistro, yeah.
Exactly. She was so kind to me and really gave me a lot of encouragement. I can remember that we walked around the block a few times, and she was just like calming me down. And so, we have an incredible community here.
Yeah,
I can't
we're
say
talk
enough.
About that. Yeah,
I can't
you're
say
in the thick
enough.
of it. Yeah.
Now I am, really, my oncologist said to me, I said, can you believe I went into the cancer world, and he said, you're just now serving up a different kind of food, Susan. You're still feeding people.
Soul food.
Soul food. So he's so sweet. I love him.
Yeah. Well, what happened? I mean, tell me about getting the diagnosis. I know there must be like a before and after in your life. And what did that look like, that transition? I imagine it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
You didn't even know where to look or where to turn or what to do.
Well, Pradeep and I were heavily invested in that restaurant, not just emotionally. And
financially.
Yeah.
Family, right? Wasn't your daughter working there too?
My daughter, just between college and going to New York to begin her career. Yes, I roped her in. She's in the culinary world now.
Still? I know she did some food journalism.
She does food journalism. She works for Hello Fresh now, and she does all the
little placards with all the little write-ups and stuff on them that go with the meal kits.
That go with this. She does recipe development, editing of the recipe development.
Wow, that sounds like a pretty sweet job.
It's a great job. She loves it. So, what was it like before? You don't think about your body that much when it doesn't hurt.
That's a shame. I know.
Yeah, and a lot of times with cancer, it's a hidden, wily,
stealth invader.
Yes, it's a good way of putting it. That's a very good way of putting it, and. It wasn't until I, felt that lump and I thought, I got to take care of this. I just don't know when. And I put it off. And finally I just said, this isn't getting any smaller.
Yeah.
And I went to my GYN who was in Santa Barbara. And I said to her, can you feel this thing? And she just looked at me and she says, I don't like the way this feels. And she says, you're too emotional for this. I'm going to take care of this. And she just got on the phone and started making appointments for me.
Yeah. Got the team together.
She got the team together. And before I knew it, I was working with a surgeon and an oncologist. And your life becomes a blur. And I'm running the restaurant.
Wow.
So
now Pradeep has a day job, your husband.
He had a day job, yes, he still does. And it was hard on him because after work he'd have to come and he's a very outgoing fellow.
Yeah.
And so he would be our maitre d'.
The front of the house.
Front of the house, exactly. And he was very good at it, very good. And I appreciated his help and just his presence there during a really tough time.
Yeah.
So all I can say is my dream of having a restaurant became my biggest nightmare.
Well, in that context, yeah. Be careful what you wish for, people.
Oh, I'm telling you, don't go into the restaurant business.
No.
Do not.
Well, I had Robin Goldstein, Chef Robin. She said catering is the way to go. If you want to be in the food world, that's just much more flexible.
Yes. She's one of my dearest friends.
Yeah.
So we went to Greece together in September.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Fun.
On a food tour.
Yeah. What was that? Rob Brydon and not Martin Sheen. I get the other guy mixed up all the time. They do those road movies where it's just them talking and doing their impressions and...
I don't know that show.
Michael Sheen and Rob Brydon. It's like they did a series of movies. But anyway, it's all food related, and they're traveling, and these guys are so, they're comedians, and they're whip smart, and
exactly.
they're just great movies. I just really, whenever I see one of those pop up in my algorithm, I'm like, oh, I'll watch that.
Oh, I have to try it.
Yeah, The Road to whatever or something.
Okay.
Road to Italy, The Road to Spain, Greece.
It sounds great. Yeah, I love
my favorite
food
was
shows.
the one they did in West counties in England. I never really thought of England as being that much of a culinary destination. But it's changed a lot since when I lived there back in the 80s. It changed a lot.
Yeah.
So
I've had some great meals in London.
Yeah.
So I kept the restaurant going for another 7 months. And
did you know that you were going to have to unwind? Was it always in the back of your mind? Or was it a day you're like, you know what, I can't do this?
I thought maybe I could get a really good manager. And that would help me out quite a bit.
Somebody you could rely on to keep the place running.
My oncologist said, if you want to live through this, you get rid of that restaurant. Either put it on hold or sell it. And I'll tell you what, do you know that weekend that we have every year where it's sort of the convergence of the music festival and the wine festival? And
the first week in June, second weekend in June.
We geared up for that big time. We knew that we were going to be slammed, and we also had a booth at the wine festival, so we were crazed.
Why would you do a booth at the wine festival?
Because it made sense at the time,
just
to
flying
really
the flag. Is that what you're thinking? Make
something
a little cash
like
and
that.
fly the flag.
Yeah, it's PR. It's so many things, another revenue source. But we spread ourselves too thin that day, for sure. Ambitious, too ambitious. And
you'd had your diagnosis.
And I had my diagnosis, and I was at that point already bald and about 85 pounds.
Well, you can't be that much more than that. You're very petite.
Oh, I am. I haven't grown in height, but
so you
anyway,
were deep in the chemo,
at the end of the day when I had a young man, an intern working with me, and we tallied everything up at the end of the night, including salaries and everything that goes into the overhead. And what was left was not enough to justify staying open. And he was staying with me, and Pradeep happened to be away that weekend, and I'm sure he wasn't expecting me to make this decision, but the intern and I sat down, and he said to me, "Are you having any fun? Like, does this still give you a charge the way it did when you first opened?" And I got very emotional, and I had to admit that it wasn't fun anymore.
That's a tough decision.
Very tough decision.
Because you're making all these post hoc rationalizations to yourself, like, oh, it's hard, but boy, I'm so busy, and it just feels right, and it keeps my mind occupied, and I can imagine the inner dialogue was probably fierce.
It was excruciating. And the two of us made the decision that the next weekend was going to be our last week.
Yeah. Did you have a blowout party?
We did. Yeah, we did. We invited, our good customers, people who had been with us, loyal from the beginning.
Yeah.
And had been loyal at the Iron Pan as well. So we just had a going away party.
Yeah.
It was emotional.
Old home week.
Yeah, it was very emotional.
Do you remember what you made for that occasion?
I think we kept it very spare. We went back to the concept of the Iron Pan, which was a veg and a non-veg plate. And basically the same thing on both plates, except one had an additional vegetarian entree, and the non-veg had a protein. So people could choose just one or the other. And we had these beautiful plates. I don't know if you remember, they were copper thalis. They're called thalis. It's a round plate that has
Brass
a
or
rim.
copper? You say
It was
brass or
copper. And they were beautiful.
Doesn't copper tarnish, though?
But in a beautiful... No, this was treated.
Patina.
And so,
gotcha.
it didn't patina too much.
Yeah.
Not green, anyway.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, no, it didn't. I had bought all of those all that copperware had 2 500-pound pallets delivered to. I mean, it was crazy. We went all in on this restaurant.
Yeah,
we really
including
did.
the ranges and everything else too.
Brand new. The entire kitchen was brand new. Yeah, it was a crazy investment. But we had high hopes that we were going to be there a very long time. The concept was good. Bringing really interesting food to Ojai at that time. We didn't have the choices, so.
Yeah. We are spoiled for choice in Ojai for restaurants. We really are.
Well, it's certainly a different culinary scene.
Well, tourism is the basis of it. Just the local population, we'd be lucky to keep a CARES going in this town. Not that there's anything wrong with CARES.
Not there's anything wrong with that.
Basically raise my kids. I could just ditch them there on Tuesday night or something. It was kids eat free.
Exactly. I remember that.
You remember that?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
So, anyway,
well, what
I was diagnosed, closed the restaurant, ended up with surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation.
Yeah.
And I was into it for about 8 months of my life.
Did you feel depressed? Was it?
Oh, yeah.
Just rocked your world?
Oh, I went into such a pity party for like 2 years. 2 years.
Why?
Yeah, I
bargaining with God.
Barely get out of bed in the morning. It was bad. And I went to see my oncologist, and when I was finished with my appointment with him, I went in to see my chemo nurse just to say hello. And so she says, I haven't seen you in so long. Sit down, let's talk. And she says, so how are you doing? And I burst into tears. And I said, Tammy, I don't know how to remake myself.
Yeah, are you? Did you have one of those moments?
Who are you after such a traumatic experience? It changes your life forever. And not necessarily in a bad way, but at that time, I couldn't see the positives.
The possibilities out there waiting for you.
Yes, I just couldn't. It wasn't there. I lost that dream. It was just gone, and there was no way I was going to reopen something.
No.
So
letting that go must have been traumatic.
Yeah, it was very hard. And so Tammy grabbed me by the hand, and she says, I have to introduce you to some people. And behind the Cancer Center in Santa Barbara, there was an independent cancer resource center that's focused on breast cancer. It's called
not affiliated with Cottage or whatever.
No, it's independent. And all cancer survivors only breast cancer survivors worked in that organization. And I walked in, and they welcomed me with open arms, and it just felt like I had met my people. And after talking with them, I said, I want to volunteer here. And can I do that? And they said, well, sure. Fill out these papers, and how many days would you like to work? And I said, 5.
Really,
get me
have some structure.
Exactly. Get me out of the house and out of my head.
People forget how important service is, just in that way of, we're social creatures, and connecting is so key.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the maladies of the modern age are related to that sense of isolation and just apartness.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
there you are.
So I volunteered there for a year, and then they hired me.
As a staffer. Getting paid.
Getting paid.
But you were making big bank on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Nonprofits.
Sure,
we make a ton of money.
Yeah.
So anyway, I worked there a total of 3.5 years, and during that time I realized that I came to the conclusion that this is really what I wanted to do.
Why, how so? Was it the tasks or just the environment, the camaraderie? What about it spoke to you like this is my path forward? When
I was first diagnosed, it felt like I was quite alone here in Ojai. There were no support services. There was a single breast cancer support group that met at Little House at Help of Ojai once a month.
Wow.
And it was led by, I don't know if you remember her, Eleanor Land.
Of course, yeah. She taught Thatcher School, right?
Did she teach it? Well, her husband yeah, Chris did.
Chris Land, yeah.
Yes. And she was a social worker, a magnificent person. And she led that group. But once a month didn't seem like enough.
No.
People were hurting.
Yeah.
And I was gaining all of this experience in Santa Barbara, and I thought,
oh yeah,
why am I going over the mountain every day? It was like a 70-mile round trip when I could start something here. And I went back to school, and I said, I need some credentials here.
Went back to school, like?
I first went to City College, Santa Barbara City College, and I took physiology and anatomy and Spanish, and I just wanted to get a few courses.
Did you pick these courses? It wasn't a part of a program or pedagogy or anything?
No, it was, I chose them. I wasn't matriculating.
Based on what you figured was going to be useful?
Yeah. I wasn't matriculating as a medical assistant or anything like that. So... And then after that, I took some classes. There's a course for patient advocacy through UCLA in their public health, their Department of Public Health. And so it was a distance learning program, and it took me 2 years to complete. But in the meantime, I continued to work at the Breast Cancer Resource Center and then started developing the structure or the skeleton of how Ojai CARES was going to develop. And I started out with a single support group.
Yeah. Now, did you have a business plan or?
I didn't.
No?
No, I was flying by the seat of my pants. I had certainly shadowed the director of the Breast Cancer Resource Center in Santa Barbara.
And knowing that you were going to structure your own organization.
Exactly.
And they knew as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it wasn't a secret.
You had
I didn't leave under strange circumstances.
I'm going to take all your book of business.
Yeah. No. I wouldn't do that. No, she was a big help to me, and our support group grew. So that I needed to...
Were there Ojai people in the support group in Santa Barbara?
No.
No?
No.
Why not?
Too far to go.
Really?
I don't know.
Or they didn't even know about it, maybe.
They maybe didn't know about it. And I did feel that we were lacking in services here. So we eventually grew too large. You remember Kim Exxon?
Of course.
She gave me my first...
They're in Kauai.
Yeah, exactly. She gave me my first space at, remember her little building? The old nunnery. Yeah, exactly.
In fact, there were still nuns living there when Kim and Jim bought the place, I think, back in the mid-aughts or late-aughts. Sure.
So we started with her in 2000 and would have been... 10, 11.
10, 11, okay.
Yeah. Maybe even 12. And we had sat next to each other at a birthday party. She asked me what I did. I told her, and she says, "Oh, I love what you're doing. Where are you doing this?" And I said, "Wherever I can get space. Sometimes it's outdoors." And she said, "I have the perfect space for you, and I'd love to give it to you." And so that's where I got my first break. So we grew out of that space, and Help of Ojai gave me the space that in Little House.
Okay.
Okay. And
Kent Hall? No, never mind. I'm getting the names mixed up.
yeah, remember Little House was that, the little structure that was to the right of the building. So, and we grew out of that, and I took a leap of faith, and I said, I think we could build something here.
Okay. When you mentioned we, at that point,
It's
who
me.
are you talking about? Okay. But how did people find you? How did cancer survivors?
This is a good story.
Yeah.
So I found that space at Firebird Plaza, and we outfitted it with. I went to that flea market that Help of Ojai has on, once a month on 150, and I pretty much bought everything there that I would need in that space, it was a beautiful, beautiful space, and we had room for a support group and room for our treatment rooms and an office and a library. It was really quite something. I wasn't positive what I was going to do there, but I thought if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
And the day I opened, I had asked the Ojai Valley News to write a story about what I was doing. And it caught the eye of a wonderful man who I'm going to keep anonymous. And he had a family foundation, and he calls me that day. And I'm thinking, this has to be a joke, that this man is calling and said, I just read the story in the Ojai Valley
you
News.
Thought you were being punked by
and
one of your
I
friends?
did. And he said, I'd like to help you. So I said, in what way? And he said, well, you probably need some seed money. So I said,
Yeah.
And I was too shy to ask him, how much are we talking about? But he surprised me in a very big way. And
then you felt validated, huh?
I did.
Yeah.
And now I had money to hire somebody. I had one volunteer, and one, she's a medical social worker. And Renee Mandala, I'm sure you must know her.
Yeah.
And
She used to be at the Nan Tolbert.
She's still there. She's the director.
Okay.
It's
I remember
Secure
Nan Tolbert.
Beginning.
That's how long I've been.
Oh,
around.
wow, you
Yeah,
really
she
have
was
been
a-
here a long time.
She was a sweetie.
Yeah. Yeah, so Renee came in and she did a little work for us. And then, I don't know if you know Lori Collins, but she is a massage therapist. And she said, why don't we do massage therapy? It's like, okay, great.
Is this just like palliative care, comfort, or is there a bigger purpose
It's not
behind
palliative because that involves medicine.
it? Okay.
So this was strictly psychosocial.
Yeah.
So we started with, we had our support groups, and then we had the massage therapy, and from the massage therapy we added Reiki and reflexology, and we had the boutique with wigs, hats, scarves. The library, I started buying books on Amazon, like, the used books
What are
for like
some
a
of the better
quarter.
books? Like, I'm curious about. Are you talking more like the monographs and studies and stuff, though, right?
Not so much that.
Inspirational literature.
More
as well?
inspirational. I
What
did
about, like,
have the Emperor of All
That's the one
Maladies,
I was
and
thinking of.
yeah, books like that are informative
And entertaining.
and
as well.
entertaining as well. When Breath Becomes Air, and there are a host of books that were been written by really influential
remember
people in the medical field.
My first experience would be Death Be Not Proud, John Hershey. Remember that book?
I do.
It's going back. And then those treatments, the poison gas that they used, and they seem so barbarian now.
They certainly do. They certainly do.
And that poor kid, my goodness, what he went through. Yeah. John Hershey was the one who reported on Hiroshima, that gigantic report in the New Yorker magazine in like 1946, I think, that just really brought it all home.
Yes.
Yeah, a great journalist, and describing his son's struggles and how no parent should
have to
their
witness
children.
that. Absolutely not.
It's just tragic.
Not.
But at least he got something out of it, or we got something out of it. You know, the literature, it helps. Us, and it's like we're not alone. It's easy to feel like we're out on the edge, staring into the abyss. But
you can use that as a metaphor for so many things.
Yeah. So here you go.
Here we go.
You said you were people were finding you. What was the
people were finding us? One from the article in the newspaper. Little by little, I have I used a custom-made. It's a customer relations data management. It's called Salesforce.
Oh yeah.
And so we had that custom made for Ojai CARES, so I could capture everything.
Now, are you going to oncologists, and where what's your pipeline?
Oncologists, nurses, local doctors. They were a little skeptical for many years. Many of them, I think they got the impression that we were an alternative.
Oh, I got you.
And I don't know where they could have gotten that from, because we are so not.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very clear about that. The modalities that we were using, Reiki, reflexology, massage, these are all being used in the best cancer medical facilities in the country, in the world. So it's...
At worst, they do no harm.
They do no harm.
First imperative.
And the idea behind those offerings was as an adjunct to the medical. Yeah, it's depressing to go and have a chemotherapy drip, and
aren't they like 4 hours? I have a friend going through that right now. Hopefully he's gonna. I think today he might be getting his all clear.
His all clear. The bell will ring. That's good. That's good. Yeah. We like to hear that.
Just being around other people going through the same thing. How did that work? Like the social dynamics of that?
What do you mean?
When people are getting together, do they sort themselves out? And, people who've been through the process before, maybe it's their second round, people just coming in new, how they form their relationships.
Within the group.
Yeah, the group dynamics.
The group dynamics. It's interesting because each group takes on its own little flavor. Yes. And
so what are some of the groups? You have a different...
we do.
What was your total universe of clients?
At our height?
Yeah.
We were serving about 130 people a year.
Including family members?
Including family members.
Because I'm thinking that's a lot of
cancer
for a small community.
Yes, including family members.
Yeah.
The ones
that's big.
Yeah. Considering how small a valley we are, and we really just handle the Ojai Valley. So it was busy. We were in that space for 7 years, and I could just see the graph, change over the years. How we started off with this many people, and it grew to about 130 a year, and then COVID hit. But that's a whole other story.
Yeah, well, I imagine that was just how disruptive that would have been. Not just because, as everyone was afraid of getting sick, people who were compromised like that
it was awful.
Would have been so much more frightening and isolating.
It was
just at the time that they really need that connection.
All of that.
So how did you tell me about that?
We had to. How do we regroup? We did take a break because we didn't know what was happening.
It did feel like the end of the world.
It did feel like the end of the world, and I held on to the space for 6 months because I was saying, "Oh, this is going to be over in a matter of weeks, and we'll get back to normal." And weeks and turned into months, turned into years.
Yeah.
So we were able to take the majority. All of our groups went to Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And
how many groups were you running?
At that time, we did a grief group, a caregiver group, several support groups. We had a breast cancer group, a general cancer group. Oh, gosh, going back a ways. Anyway, we were offering like 7 different groups at that time.
And led by staff or by? Led
by staff. Renee Mandala did a lot of our groups. We had, we did our hypnotherapy in a group also when we had our brick and mortar. And now it went to Zoom, and we continued to do that in Zoom because I don't have a brick and mortar. But it works out fine. Hypnotherapy.
The old people were getting what they needed.
Yeah. I'm calling it hypnotherapy because it's run by a hypnotherapist, but you could call it guided meditation.
Yes, I think that's my experience.
Yeah. So so that was the big changeover, and what were we going to do after that? Well, we opened up a new space. By that time, our landlady had rented the space out to a salon, and they completely revamped that.
Restructured the whole
floor
plan.
Oh, yeah, everything. They had to put in sinks and, everything.
So you weren't going back?
We weren't going back there. And things were working out okay. And as long as there was no hiccup with client services, we couldn't offer any of the hands-on. But Reiki you can do over the phone, as it turns out. We prefer it hands-on. It's not even a hands-on. Reiki is energy exchange. So apparently you can do it online. So
okay.
I haven't personally experienced it, but we were doing it. And I think people were just happy that they have something non-medical to comfort them. And it almost didn't matter what it was.
I can totally understand that. Any kind of a positive distraction.
Oh, gosh, yes. So we're now back to all, except for hypnotherapy, where we do everything in person. We have a massage therapist.
Where are you now? Are you back in here? Where are you?
Where do we work?
Yeah.
So my office is in my home.
Yeah.
So I run everything from there. And we have space at the Lymphatic Health Institute on Pearl Street. I don't know if you are aware of that. An incredible little organization. And so they gave us their living room to do our cancer groups. And then we have other groups at, what's that one called? The Ojai United Methodist Church.
Okay. Where they also do homeless shelters in the winter.
Oh, is that where they do?
All the churches, or many of the churches
they switch off.
Rotate.
So, so those are our 2 major places. We have another group where we talk about living, aging, and dying. And those are hard topics.
Yeah.
Because we all are in that progression of living, aging, and dying.
Nobody's getting younger.
Nobody's getting any younger. So that one is run out of, what is it called? Alchemia, which is on El Roblar.
El Roblar, Alchemia Wellness.
Right, exactly. And that's Cesare Scala. and she does that group for us. And we actually have something else planned with her and her business partner. This is going to be exciting. We're going to do a full day. We're not sure that it's enough for a weekend retreat, but certainly a full day to learn how to do advanced directives, which, I mean, a serious advanced directive. It's like a multi-page document that needs to be notarized.
Right down to the flowers at the funeral.
Yeah, something like that. Like, this is what I want, play the music I want. Play. I mean, but it's much more than that.
Medical
it's your
directives of resuscitation and whatnot. So.
All of that. So,
has anybody said they want extraordinary measures? Do people say whatever it takes?
Yeah, people. Absolutely.
Regardless of the quality of life.
I'm constantly surprised at the people's will to live.
But once
even
they're
in the face
scenario, they don't feel like.
I don't know. Even in the face of terminal illness, people will hold on to one last treatment, one last hope.
Yeah.
Clinical trials, mostly clinical trials are people who have basically come to the end of their to their other treatments. So, so we have a lot of fun things planned in educational service, educational.
Do you bring in guest speakers
retreats?
At all? Guest speakers.
We used to.
In? Yeah, not since the pandemic though.
No, we used to.
And what would that be like with somebody that's? Is there like a circuit of researchers and medical?
Well, there was a researcher that we invited down from Sacramento, who is a statistician. We had.
When you say statistician, I think cancer clusters.
Yeah, that's exactly what that was his specialty. And
none around here, though. I think we've talked about this before. You and I have talked about Ventura County being maybe a little high, Ojai not being so high. I don't want to get into that. I got many friends on both sides of the issue.
Of course. But he came down to quell some of the people's fears that Ojai had more than its share.
Yeah.
Because that we are an agricultural bowl, if you will.
We're also an older population.
We're an older population.
That's going to have a statistical effect.
Of course. Absolutely. So he had to figure in all of that into his numbers. What is the natural number of cancer?
What you would expect in the population,
So, anyway.
I know the cancer clusters are tricky because you're often dealing with small samples, and that statistical clusters happen all over the place. It's just the way things. It's just Bayesian distribution. It's just the way the field works. So,
where I lived on Long Island,
teasing out the correlations or the causation from the correlation is a very, very tricky business.
Yeah.
So you're saying on Long Island?
Oh yeah,
Long Island.
Long Island. I don't talk like that, but yeah.
Anymore.
the Island. Funny enough, Renee is from Long Island also. But
I don't think she talks like that either.
No, she doesn't.
Long Island.
No, I think she's been away from the island long enough to have eliminated
It definitely has a distinct culture.
Yeah.
A lot of islanders.
But there is a real cluster. They call it a hot spot.
Cancer Alley.
Cancer Alley, where the potato farming was out on the island.
What is that related to?
Potatoes? Oh, using DDT.
Oh, really? So it's still cycling through the system, even though it was banned back in the, mid to late 60s?
Yeah.
I remember when they would have the trucks going along spraying the ditches.
That, and we used to have, maybe my cancer came from this, we kids. They used to have mosquito trucks.
Yes,
and
that's the DDT trucks.
Exactly, and there were sprayers on both sides, and they just went down the road. And stupidly, nobody told us not to do this.
You're walking around
how about we followed that truck on our bikes?
Mm-hmm.
That was crazy, but nobody knew.
Well, what was that Terrence Malick movie? Tree
Oh,
of
Tree
Life.
of Life.
They showed some scenes in
He's
it.
one of my
Such a
favorite
gorgeous
directors.
movie. Gorgeous film.
Beautiful film. I don't find too many people that liked that film as much as I did. I didn't want it to be over. After 3 hours,
That
I was
scene
like,
with
more.
Jessica Chastain on that, whatever it was, the beach there. I didn't even know. I wasn't even thinking, and I just wept, like, and it was just the beauty of that expression. Yeah, he's a
fabulous.
He did a very interesting documentary about this young musician named Lil Peep, who was all tatted and pierced, and I forget the name of that kind of grunge emo rap that he did. But he was only 21 years old, and he died of the drug addicts and stuff. Terrence Malick was very good friends with the kid's grandfather, who was a historian, and the sweetness of the relationship between the father and the grandson, or the grandfather and the grandson, was just really remarkable. And you could just feel this boy, this scared little boy, just trying to find himself in all the wrong ways. I mean, he was a very talented, some of these, he had a couple of hit songs when he was only like in his 18, 19 years old. But this world that he lived in, you could just tell there was no way out. No way out. But anyway, Terrence Malick, genius.
Love him.
Yeah.
Days of Heaven.
I haven't. I would go back and see that again.
Oh,
when was that, like 1980s or something?
It was earlier than that.
Really?
I
Back
was,
in the
I think, in
70s?
10th grade, so it had to be about 70. I was in 10th grade.
Was that Richard Gere?
Oh, yes, Richard Gere. I think it was his first movie.
Yeah.
Wonderful film. What I love about Terrence Malick is he is very slow and deliberate in his
the way he builds it up.
cinematography.
But you could take any frame out of one of those movies and frame it, put it on a wall.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, it's art.
Yes.
24 frames per second of art.
Yeah. I love him. It's wonderful to hear that you
So
liked
back
that
to
movie.
cancer.
Back to cancer.
What are we looking at?
Right.
What are the vision? What is the years ahead for Ojai CARES?
It's a good question. It's a very good question.
You must think about it.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
In a perfect world, money no object.
I've been asked this. Asked this question.
That's a natural question.
Yeah. And if money was no object, I would reopen a brick and mortar for sure. Yeah. If I were to go back to that way of working, I would be doing more fundraising than working with clients. Right now, I'm really in my sweet spot working with clients and doing a little bit of fundraising.
Do you enjoy the development part, the raising the money?
No.
You enjoy that?
I do not.
The people who do enjoy it seem to have the world by the tail, don't they?
It's a personality that I wish I had, but I'm more on the shy side and humble. And I'm humbled by the number of donors that we do have that come to us year after year with their wallets open and with the best of intention. It makes me cry, from the $10 donation to the $10,000 donation.
What about grants?
So this year we were very lucky, and I applied for 2 grants, and we were successful. I do all the grant writing, which is not, that's another career that people have, is grant writing. And so I had to figure that out over the years. And I've had help from some very, very smart people in this community. That
Really smart people in Ojai.
Oh,
Goodness.
very, very smart people.
So what can you share about some anecdotes or stories about actual people?
I would
There's
love
gotta be
to.
some. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. One day, I was alone in the office. It was the end of the day, and I used to like to stay.
Sounds like the setup for a horror movie.
Well,
go ahead.
there was a knock on the door, and we were all glassed in there, so I could certainly see who was at the door. And it was a fellow who was rather disheveled, scared the heck out of me because I was alone there. And I thought to myself, okay, you can't not answer the door because he can see that you're there.
Yeah.
I could have said, I'm sorry, we're closed. But I decided to open the door. And I asked if I could help him. And he said, I was walking by and I saw your sign, Ojai CARES Cancer Resource Center. And he just looked at me and says, I have cancer. I was like, come on in.
Yeah.
And he stayed for about an hour and a half. He was homeless. He had been living in a shed for about 30 years.
30 years.
No running water, except for a hose.
Here in Ojai.
Here in Ojai, yes. He had grown up here, and he hit some hard times. Alcoholism, drug use.
Yeah, probably no family support either.
No family support.
Away, yeah.
None. He really had a tough foundation, really thin in terms of family. And after that hour and a half, we said, let's stay in touch. And I told him all the things that we could offer him, but he wasn't a very shy guy. Definitely had some thick walls up. And I called him rather often. He did have a phone. And he would call me, and sometimes he would call me and he was drunk. And I would say, I'm going to call him Michael. I'd say, Michael, I'm not going to talk to you if you're drunk. So call me when you are sober. And he got the message. After a few of these, with me saying goodbye, I'm not going to talk to you. You're dealing with some serious issues, and you're not going to get any better if you put that poison in your body.
But you can understand the coping mechanism.
Absolutely. I followed Michael for a year, and during that time our friendship really grew. I cared about him a lot, and I was frightened for him. And
was he getting treatment?
He was getting treatment. He was on a lot of medication. He had advanced prostate cancer. And gosh, when I think about him, I get a little choked up, I have to tell you. Sure. So, long story, I'm going to condense this. Around 7 months into our relationship, and I mean our professional relationship, I called in Cesare Scala, our death doula. That's what Cesare does for us.
Is a death doula.
She's a death doula. And
a guide to the other side.
Exactly. And we use her a lot.
Have you seen somebody die? Have you seen them when they let go? Me too.
Yeah.
It's actually quite moving.
It's incredibly moving.
Yeah.
Well, Cesare started preparing Michael for the inevitable. And he fought us. He was like, no, I'm going to keep taking my vitamins, and I know I'm going to cure myself. And we'd say, okay, but we have to talk about this because we want to know your wishes. How should we? There's nobody to take care of you. What will happen?
Gentleman was he?
Michael was, I would say he was close to 70.
Okay. So at least he's on Medicare.
He was on Medicare and he was on Medi-Cal.
Yeah.
So, and that's a very nice combination for the medical world. It's called a Medi-Medi.
Yeah.
And if you go into a facility, they like Medi-Medis because they know they're going to get full payment from one place or another.
State or the feds.
Exactly. Yeah. So we got Michael prepared. His health really declined. He could no longer really walk. And he had, it had affected his bladder. I mean, things were really going down. Yes. Well, he was catheterized, so he had a bag strapped to his leg. I mean, he's really, really going downhill pretty quickly. And I estimated about 6 weeks before he died, I happened to be at the hospital getting an x-ray, and I saw Hadi Lashkari in the parking lot.
Another friend of the pod.
Yeah. Oh, is he?
Yeah.
He's fabulous. Love him. And we stopped to talk, and I'm looking straight at the Continuing Care Center, and I said, Hadi, are there beds there for hospice? And he said, yeah, we have a few. And I said, do you have one open for a male? So he said, let me get on the phone. And right there, while we're in the parking lot, he makes a call, and he said, we do. And I said, I know I've never asked you for a favor before, but I have a big favor. And I quickly told him a little bit about Michael. And he sent me to the financial, whoever does the financial, not financial aid, but whoever covers.
Does the admissions.
Yeah, the admissions, financial admissions, and gave her as much information as I had. And in a week, he was in a bed. He was out of that
shed into a bed,
into a clean environment with 3 meals and snacks a day.
Skilled personnel.
Skilled personnel. It was not an easy move for him to make, and I remember
not easy because.
Well, he was pretty dedicated to the way he was living.
Personally,
well, people live on the street, and they
not
don't.
Not logistically, just.
Emotionally letting go and realizing that this was probably the beginning of the end. And when you tell somebody they're going on hospice, it's a scary word. It's a very scary word. Anyway, I remember it was his birthday the day before he was going into the Continuing Care Center, and I brought him a big box of new clothes that he could, so he wasn't wearing his dirty clothes at the hospital. And he just started to cry. He said, no one's ever given me a birthday present before. It was just so sad. I mean, he touched my heart in a way I don't think anybody else has. Between Cesare and this one of our volunteers, Joe, and myself, we made sure that Michael had somebody coming in and out of his room every day. Every single day. Sometimes because we didn't check with each other, sometimes all 3 of us were there.
Yeah, at the same time.
I made sure I was there before work and after work. Thanksgiving came around, and I wasn't going to New York for Thanksgiving. I was going to be alone, and so Michael and I spent it together. I made him mashed potatoes.
Hospital.
At the hospital. I got more involved. We all did. We all kind of rallied around him and made him realize that that he would say to me often, why are you doing this?
Yeah, what's in it for you?
Exactly, what's in it for me, and who am I to you? And I said, Michael, everybody deserves dignity, especially at the end.
Yeah, we have a very strange aversion to death in this culture, don't we? Feels bad. I grew up digging graves. I don't know if you knew that. I spent 6 years digging graves.
Is that a family business?
Well, my dad was the cemetery director. It's an elected position. He had like 17 different jobs. It's a small town, but he definitely dumped off most of that work on me. Wow.
And this was by hand back then? Or you didn't have machinery?
No, it was about 80-20, 20% by hand. 80% you get the backhoe in there. But a lot of places in smaller family cemeteries. And it's 54 inches, 4.5 feet.
Oh, that's it? I wonder,
I don't know where that 6 feet thing got
6 feet
started.
under.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But to see how people, how we go about death, it seems like where my, people, there's a lot of Irish and Italians and the Germans that we were all stoic. It was a party when somebody died.
Yeah, exactly.
Wouldn't it be sweeter if they had a party while they were still alive?
Wouldn't it, though?
Did you ever see that Robert Duvall movie called Get Low with Sissy Spacek? Do you know what I'm talking about? I love that movie.
It's good.
That movie should be shown like every year. I mean, you talk about taking that motif around death and flipping it around.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I saw that. Anyway, we come to the end. We all rallied around Michael. The day before he died, we were all there. He was still somewhat in and out. Mm. And then Cesare and I were there when he died. And she comes with her bag of tricks and or what she needs to really take care of the body. Mm-hmm. And this is her specialty. We washed him. She clipped his nails, toes and fingers. We anointed him with the oils that she blends. Essential oils. We wrapped him in a shroud. Mm. She had flowers. Was
this all according to his wishes? Or was it just her process?
It was her process, and we told him that we were going to take good care of him. Yeah. That he would be treated with respect. And he was just so thankful for the whole process, the whole last 6 weeks, the whole last year of his life. It made him cry all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to choke up a little
bit.
When you think about the meaning that people have after they die. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We're having this conversation.
Yeah.
It's like that Daniel Johnston song, Life in Vain. Have you ever heard that?
I don't
Daniel
know that
Johnston
song. No.
He was a strange fellow, but so
So
beautifully.
Michael,
it was like a raw nerve, the way that he talked about everything.
Mm-hmm.
But that, just for some reason, that reminds me of.
So the law allows you to be with a dead body for 4 hours.
I didn't even know there would be such a law.
There is a law. And we took every minute of that.
Yeah.
We hung out with him and just made sure that the chapel, or whatever you call it, that comes to get the body, the undertaker.
Yeah.
What are they called?
Well, the funeral home.
The funeral home.
Yeah.
That we didn't want them to use the black bag because he was all ready to go.
Yeah.
Just put him right into the crematorium, just the way he was. And
did you have a service?
No. There was.
Well, you had your 4 hours.
We had our 4 hours. That was our service, and
yeah.
We talked about him and some of the fun things that he said and did, and he was a quirky guy.
Yeah.
Very quirky guy, but he is always with me. He was my best teacher. I told him that so many times. Wow. I said, you have really... That first impression that I had that I was frightened by him changed my worldview on not judging a book by its cover.
And also just the assumptions we make.
We make a lot of assumptions about how people get there. Everybody has a story. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to end up like that. Alone, living on a mattress on a dirt floor.
Oof.
Yeah, nobody wants to live like that. But he just could not get out of his... He had no skills.
You mean employable skills?
Employable skills and emotional skills.
Yeah.
He was scarred, a wounded man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you gave him a dignified exit.
Yeah, and it felt right. And I generally, and I instruct, I instruct anybody that works for us, don't get that involved with people. Really? Emotionally, you got to keep some barriers up. Yeah. Oh, when I first started, I had no barriers, and I was going to memorials like every month.
Just a lot to carry around.
Oh, please. I think it was the first year that we were around, and Renee was working at that time, and it was between Thanksgiving and Christmas or New Year's. We had 5 deaths.
Whoa.
And we went to all of them.
They do seem to cluster up
around
that
goodness.
time, don't they? Mm-hmm.
There is sort of a loose, not theory, but study that people hold on for special events, so birthdays, anniversaries, Christmas, New Year's. So we went to each one of those memorials. Mm. And at the end of that, I said to Renee, I think I might be in the wrong business. I can't do this. I just can't do it. And so we made a pact that we wouldn't go to any more memorials, that it was just too... We get involved with the families, but at some point you have to let go.
Well, it's a lot to carry around. I have a friend, I just talked to her the other day. She's been LCSW or therapist for 20 years. She can't do it anymore.
No, it's taking on people's pain.
Their psychic weight.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So I'm much more aware of how far to allow my own emotions to get involved.
Through hard experience, I imagine.
I'm not quite as hardened as people in the medical field.
Yeah.
But because I'm in a heart business, but it's I've learned to protect myself and have boundaries, and so.
All right. Well.
Wow.
Wrap it up. Yeah, an hour and 15 minutes. All right, Susan.
Goes by quickly.
So much. Yeah. Thank you. Hey everyone, Brett Bradigan here, just thinking out loud. So another conversation with somebody who is at the heart of things in Ojai. And in 4.5 years, coming up on 4 years, I've been doing this podcast, 180 some episodes. And I've had a lot of those moments where I realize how lucky I am and how many amazing people it takes to create that field of gratitude. It's like Freud called it an oceanic feeling, when you realize a oneness, when you sense that. Ojai's got its challenges, but every time I put the headphones on and start talking to people, my little studio here on the 2nd floor, overlooking the back of the arcade, I start to feel that stirring, fellow feeling, that oceanic feeling. Realize I'm where I should be. I really love this place, and I hope through listening to the podcast, you will come to love it as well. Anyway, that's it for this episode of Ojai Talk of the Town. We'll keep an ear out for you.